Revolution Radio proudly presents, live from the heart of the Blue Ridge, Roanoke, Virginia. It's the Just Bernard Show with host Bernard Alvarez. Join Bernard as he shares topics that reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience, including world liberty, the esoteric, suppressed technologies, spiritual ascension, and human consciousness. Humanity has awakened, and our time has come to realize our full potential. And now, live from the Star City, your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Anyway, let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about today's show. Like I said, we are calling today's show the Beginner's Guide to Awakening and Activism, and I know many of our listeners are probably already pretty much ingrained in their path to awakening, whether it be a spiritual awakening or whether it be a political activist awakening. But again, like I said, we've had so many people that keep asking questions and want a guess of a simple guide. And so we're going to try to provide that for you today. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me, first of all, before I go any further, let me define what I consider awakening. I know a couple weeks ago I did do a show on my personal path, but that was my path. Let me talk a little bit about what awakening is to me. Now, again, referring to what I have seen and what I have felt, that feeling of awakening can become very lonely very quickly. It's kind of like you wake up one day, no pun intended, you wake up one day and you start realizing that the world around you is not what you thought it was, whether it be on a spiritual level or on a political level, as far as the powers that be are concerned. At this point, many people feel very alone and are in search of answers. And what happens at that point is we get very excited. It's almost like, and I've made this parallel before, it's almost like that born-again Christian that just wants to share the message of Christ with everyone, and doing it with good intention. Like, oh my God, this is so wonderful. You have to see this. You have to understand this. You've got to feel what I'm feeling. I'm feeling so good. You know, I'm seeing so clearly. I understand everything. And we get very, for lack of a better term, many of us become evangelists of truth, evangelists of clarity, evangelists of, the truth movement, whatever it is you want to call it, of consciousness. And it is a big turnoff to a lot of people, as I'm sure, it would be a turnoff if, you have Jehovah's Witnesses knocking on your door every other day telling you, the story of Christ and how they can save you from going to hell. It almost falls along the same path sometimes. So let me just define awakening as a moment in your life where clarity is brought to you either through trauma, either through a ritual experience or a drug experience, or just happening spontaneously, like an epiphany. And it's that aha moment, I get it. This is not what I thought it was. The government isn't what I thought it was. My religion isn't what I thought it was. My beliefs aren't what I thought they were. And now what do I do? And we start seeking other people of like mind. We start seeking other people who have had this experience. I've done the parallel again before. I visualize a crowded New York City street with hundreds of people on a street walking, and certain people just pop their head up, and you're like, I recognize you. You recognize me. We get this. And it's kind of like, again, that connection and that understanding between like minds that we're seeking. So to go a little bit further into this, I am going to go a little bit about my own personal journey on this, just in the beginning of the show, to kind of kind of share a little bit of what I went through, and perhaps what some of you might be going through as well. I had two separate awakenings, for lack of a better term. I had my spiritual awakening in my early 20s, and I didn't get my geopolitical truther, quote unquote, awakening until my mid 30s. And I will say at the very beginning for me, spiritually, it was very depressing. Because not only, and when I say I didn't have my political awakening, I didn't get the picture, the clear picture until the early 2000s. But in my spiritual awakening, I did get the understanding of how much we are destroying each other, how much we're destroying the planet, how unfair the global economic system is, et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, I also realized that all of my preconceived notions of what we are capable of as human beings were completely thrown out the window. I started understanding the idea of energy and understanding how we are energetic beings, how powerful our thoughts are, how powerful our minds are. And it became very overwhelming for me. And I tried to suppress the knowledge that I had gained from this spiritual awakening, quote unquote. And I would try to ignore it, finding myself in situations where I felt conflict. The common term for that is cognitive dissonance. I knew better about certain things, and I knew certain things weren't real, but I would keep trying to tell myself that, yes, it is okay to keep supporting the Catholic Church, or, whatever it is, as an example. But for me, it was a turning point in, again, religiously for me. That's where I left my old beliefs and started pursuing metaphysics and, seriously pursuing, I should say, metaphysics, paganism, Buddhism, Taoism, all the isms, minus the Abrahamic religions. I completely turned my back on the Abrahamic religions at that point. But and so it was like I had this wonderful sensation of clarity. I had this wonderful sensation of, even the isms, the Buddhisms, the Taoisms, the paganisms weren't quite right. They didn't quite get it. For me, what I understood was there was a greater truth that went beyond all that, that these were just illusions to try to make us feel like we're being spiritual, to try to make us feel like we're connected to something greater. But it was merely just an illusion created by others, perpetuated by others, that I was agreeing to. And again, I'm referring to Taoism, Buddhism. Even Buddhism says it in itself is an illusion. But that was a very, very big deal for me. And when I saw my friends or my family or, just the general public giving in to the isms, I felt very sad. I felt very depressed. I felt very hopeless. Like, okay, well, humanity is not getting it. Why do we keep falling for the illusions? Why do we get so angry and defend the illusion? Why can't we understand that our connection and our experience is really an individual perception? Now, I knew that we were connected. I knew that many of us, all of us are a piece of one consciousness. We're one perspective of one giant universal consciousness. And I kept longing for humanity to understand that, and to understand that, we're going about it all wrong. Your isms are not working. They're not working for me, and they're definitely not working for you. I have experienced something that made me feel complete oneness with all people, made me feel complete connection to all things. And in the end, I understood also that connection was merely just an illusion. So there we go into the profundity of the cycle of understanding. And again, I'm only speaking on the spiritual level right now. I'll get into political in a few moments. But the profundity of understanding that even your own beliefs are an illusion. Even your own experiences of how you organize them in your brain, how you organize them and explain them to yourself, is also an illusion. So what is real? And what does it matter of what is real? What does it matter? It matters for you to create a secure, grounded perception on this particular planet. That's why it matters. I feel that all of these illusions, we're all creating the best illusion that works for us, whether it be your political affiliation, your spiritual affiliation, your work, your career, your calling, your choice of lifestyle, the way that you identify yourself, the way that you were raised. All of these things create an illusion to help us maintain a grasp on this particular reality. But again, this is only one reality of multiple dimensions. And again, when I had said earlier that I felt that connection with not only all of humanity, that we are literally just different perceptions of one consciousness, but that one consciousness extends beyond the earth, extends beyond this 3.5 dimensional paradigm into the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th dimensions. So all of these dimensions, even within themselves, have their own characteristics of an illusion, of the perception of the being or the entity, whether it be you or a god or a goddess or whatnot, working through these particular these levels of perception. The way, again, taking it all back into how we acknowledge it, how do we talk to ourselves about what we're experiencing? We must remember, and this was one of the most important things that I learned during my particular spiritual awakening, was that language is language. It was created by somebody else, and the moment you put something into language, it loses its purity, for lack of a better term, its truth. There are many languages out there that don't have words for that word or this word. I saw a wonderful article a couple days ago. I think it was like the top 20 foreign word, non-English words that don't have a meaning in the English language. That there's no English translation for it. So if you think about all the languages we have around the planet, and you think about all the different translations that are being used, isn't our very verbiage that we're using in our mind only one translation of what we've experienced, of a greater experience of truth? And again, I'll go back to that word, truth. So I learned that even as I explain things to myself, even as my mind uses English, and I do think in English. I was raised Spanish. I spoke Spanish uh, before I spoke English, and I used to think in Spanish until I was about 12 or 13. And then as I began to go to middle school and whatnot, I started speaking and thinking in English. So I can relate to this. I've been through this particular experience. We have a way of speaking to ourselves in our brain. Yes, think about that. People of different languages speak in their brain with different languages. So who's to say that our language can best define what our experiences are? Who's to say that our ego is not influencing the verbiage that we're using in our mind to help us define our personal spiritual experiences? I found it was very, very important for me not to take my beliefs too seriously. And I'm doing the quote unquote with my fingers right now. You can't see me, but beliefs, quote unquote, because of the fact they are only one interpretation, they're my interpretation. The experience that I had, that connection with oneness, that connection with understanding all of the universe, all of consciousness, was an experience, and it passed. It's over. That wonderful spiritual awakening is now over. I'm back to 3D reality. I'm functioning as a lay person on this planet, and so our memories generate, again, they generate words, they generate a history for you, and a belief for you. So that was one of the things that I found was very difficult for me. And then let's move up now to the political aspect. Same thing happened. Here we go. It's the early 2000s, whatnot. I get that political awakening. I understand about the Illuminati. I understand about the New World Order. I learned about the Federal Reserve more than I wanted to. The IMF, all of that. I start understanding how corrupt corporations are. I start understanding that all these companies that I would support in the past, a good example is the Komen Foundation, which is one of the most corrupt. And I am going to be naming some names today, so I apologize if you support any of these people and or organizations that I mentioned today. But I will also be sharing positive information on corporations and leaders, speakers, and radio hosts. But I was very big with the Komen. I thought it was one of the biggest things in the world, one of the greatest things in the world. It ends up to be one of the most corrupt, greedy, and part of the biggest problems of our planet. There are so many. I supported Hillary Clinton, for goodness sake. Who the heck would have thought me, now knowing who I am now today, would have supported someone like Hillary Clinton, or even be a registered Democrat or Republican for that matter. So the reality of it is that we begin getting very we begin getting lost. I got lost. Who do I believe? Who do I trust? You can't trust anybody. Can't trust anybody, and that's how I felt. I started feeling I can't trust anybody. If you're making more than $15,000 a year, I can't trust you. If you're, what was that old saying? Never trust anyone over 30. Well, for me, it was never trust anyone with a salary over 30,000. But the reality of it is that I didn't trust anybody, and I started getting very conspiratorial, and that's when the conspiracy theories start coming in. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, and I'm going to get more into conspiracy theories and all of that later on in the show. I'm just sharing with you what it was like for me during this awakening. So here I am. I started focusing on conspiracy theories. I started watching all these Illuminati videos. I will mention Chris Everard, Enigma TV. I started watching Alex Jones. I started listening to David Icke. I mean, all of these people. And because I was so confused and seeking some type of truth, I hate to say it, I kind of just took it at face value. Oh, well, if they said it, it must be true. I respect them. I like what they're saying. It must be true. I need to support them. I need to agree with them. I need to not think for myself because they're teaching me something. And I got very caught up in the Alex Jones, the Church of Alex Jones, for lack of a better term. I will say on a positive note that I discovered Carrie Cassidy at that point, later on, a couple of years later. And it was through meeting a lot of the people that she's worked with that it has really helped me gain clarity, and getting to know her and the people that she's interviewed has been very helpful. On a positive note, now that's not to say the people that Project Camelot have interviewed are telling the truth or that I believe everything that they've said. But back then it was like, oh, thank you. Some sense of normality for me. Some sense of, oh my goodness, somebody who's at least bringing up the situation that there is an Illuminati, that there are powers that be that are trying to destroy the planet, to destroy or enslave humanity would be a better term. People, they all had different theories. A good example is, we have Alex Jones that used to say, and again, I'm speaking from personal experience. When I had my early, 2000 political awakening, I had Alex Jones telling me that this group of the group of 20 or whatever it is that it is now, want to destroy and kill and slaughter 2/3 of humanity, and that's the end game. I remember watching that movie, The End Game. They're going to kill us all. They're going to kill us all, and they're going to create this paradise for them, and we're all going to be their servants. Looking back now, it sounds ridiculous. They're destroying the planet, so how can it be a paradise? We had David Icke talking about, the Illuminati and the reptilians and how the Illuminati are really answering to the reptilian aliens. And this is a reptilian alien agenda. And again, just trying to simplify my belief. So I would be like, oh my, it's the reptilian. Oh, they're a reptilian. Look at their eyes. And I'd be one of those people, going through YouTube and saying, oh, look, the light hit their eye funny. And now they look like a reptile, and it's looking and trying to support this idea that reptilians are taking over the planet and that they control all the powers that be. Now, I have never experienced it, so I don't know. Have you? Have you met a reptilian alien that controls a global leader? Have you literally come face to face with one? How can you believe something you have never experienced? You're literally taking someone else's account and creating it as a belief of your own. For me, that creates cognitive dissonance. So again, I still like David Icke. I still like Alex. Well, I like his writers better than him, but I still like the Infowars. I still like David Icke and the others that are out there. But it did come to a point where I was just looking for answers and trying to create this web of belief because my beliefs had been shattered. My beliefs had been shattered. I could not trust the two-party system. I could not trust the monetary system. I could not trust the international geopolitical system anymore. So how do I understand where I am? How do I understand who's telling the truth? How do I understand what is the story? Because aren't we always trying to understand what is the story? What is the story of humanity? That's why we have history. That's why we have religion. That's why we have, politics, trying to make sense of humanity, trying to make sense of what our beliefs are. And I think that's what it really comes down to was I'm seeking a new belief system. As I said before, I was very involved in paganism during the 90s, and that went out the window. I was like, I can't believe this anymore. It doesn't work for me. It does not work for me. And I'll tell you why. Well, I'm not going to tell you why it didn't work for me in the sense that it had to do with the conspiracy theories, but I will say it just didn't fit into my new paradigm anymore. It just didn't fit into my new paradigm. I did not like the idea of hierarchy. I was involved in a quote unquote spiritual practice that involved hierarchy, and that put me at the top. I didn't want to be at the top. I wanted to be equal, and I could not function spiritually on that level anymore. So people got very upset with me. And I know I'd mentioned this in the past. People got very upset with me for speaking publicly about practices and beliefs and energy work and alchemy and all these things that I was trained in because I believed that everybody was equal. So it just didn't work for me anymore. And trying to seek other belief systems, trying to look to leaders, trying to look to mentors. Again, like I said before, I fell in with Alex Jones, David Icke, and a couple others out there. But I'm happy to say at this point, I am my own conscience. I keep my own counsel. Now, don't get me wrong. I consider Trevor, who's on the air with us today, one of my best friends, and he is a person I vent to and I bounce ideas off of. That's one thing. Having a confidant, having someone you can bounce ideas off is one thing, but having someone to tell you how to think is not the way to go about it. And that's what happens many, many times when we are beginning this path of awakening and or activism. If we're getting involved, let me put it in an activist sense that many people that get involved in activism, uh, they find one particular activist or one particular radio host or one particular author, and everything that person says is gold. They don't question it, and they don't seek second opinions and or do any type of referencing. And don't get me wrong, I'm only human. The same things happened to me. I went through it with Occupy. I was like, oh, I loved Occupy, 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 Occupy. And then all of a sudden, the reality that the local Occupy was merely uh, not created. I take that back. It was created spontaneously. I'll give it that much. But in the end, everyone who was participating was merely a cheerleader for the Democratic Party, which I was not. So I had to back off. Now, again, uh, we have to know when it is time to let go of a belief or supporting of something that does not work for you. And I am going to be going on a break in just a few seconds. So I don't want to go too much to the next topic. But from when we come back from this break, we're going to talk about some resources that people have available, some of the resources that I've used and am using And we're also going to talk about many other things from conspiracy theories, fear porn, satanic panic. You
And now, back to your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Welcome back to this Bernard Show here on Revolution Radio. I just wanted to do a quick announcement to everybody. If you would like to learn more about myself or would like to see any of the videos and or articles I have written in the past, you can find me at the GIC.org. We're also going to be releasing a blog in just a few days or within a week. So we'll be posting lots of articles and whatnot there, and we'll be sharing that URL probably next week here on the radio show. But anyway, to go back to our conversation here today, the beginner's guide to awakening and activism. Many people have asked me in the past, what are some common ways that people react to their awakening? Now, so far, I have shared with you a bit about my personal journey, what I have gone through, how I've reacted. But now I have been on the air for 6 years. I've been doing blogging and vlogging and making videos now for almost 8 years, and I've been seeing a lot of reaction. I see the comments. I receive the emails. We have the GIC.org is a community website, so I see what people are saying. I see how people are reacting. And the one common thing that I can say, and unfortunately this might sound negative, but it's just an observation. The one common thing that I find is that anyone who says different of what your personal belief is during your awakening process seems to be ostracized. People get very angry when they are going through the awakening process. Again, political or spiritual, and I'll just say that one last time. When I say awakening, I'm speaking politically and or spiritually. When people are going through the awakening process, I find that people get very angry when you say something that is not in accordance to what they are thinking as they are awakening. A good example, and I don't mean to harp on this poor gentleman. He's done a great job at working, the media and helping many people awaken. But Alex Jones, Jesus, if you say one negative thing about Alex Jones to his followers, they rip you apart. And that's very unhealthy. That is very, very unhealthy. And it doesn't matter whether it's Alex Jones, it doesn't matter whether it's Revolution Radio or Kerry Cassidy or Bernard Alvarez or the GIC. We have to be open to other information other than what we are feeling is where we are creating as a belief. Let me restate that. It is very important that we are open to new information, period. There are many times I remember, well, actually, I don't want to get personal. I'm not going to go personal, but I have seen, like I said before, that people just do not want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. They're not open to it. That is not growth. That is not awakening. That's stifling. That is stifling your growth. That is stifling your consciousness. That is stifling your path, but by being cornered into a specific belief. Oh, I found my savior. No, you are your savior. You need to understand that you are your savior. It is your understanding of how you need to walk this path that is going to make you the most beneficial to the rest of humanity. Don't get angry at the chemical people. Don't get angry at the GMO people. Don't get angry at the Alex Jones people. Don't get angry at the Bernard Alvarez people. Everyone has the right to be where they are, and everyone has the right to express what they are thinking and what they are experiencing. We must respect that. We must respect that, or we're not going to get anywhere as a human race. As a human race, I don't care if you're American or Canadian or English or German or Filipino or Indian or Chinese. This isn't going to happen until we have the ability to get past the idea that my way is the only way. So, going back to the question, how do people react? Common ways people react in their awakening, they become closed minded. They become closed-minded. And if you need to check yourself. You need to check yourself. Are you believing everything? Are you just accepting everything without making reference, without letting it filter through your intuition, without letting it filter through your body as something that you truly feel is right? Is it making you feel better? Does it make you feel better? Does it make you feel like you have a greater understanding? If the answer is yes, then by all means, stick with that particular path. However, we have to be more cooperative with those that might be feeling something differently. Let me give you another example. I gave you the Alex Jones example. One of the other things that I'm seeing on the spiritual level, we have the oh, what do you think you create people? Law of attraction that ignore war, that ignore corruption, that are ignoring anything negative in the news, because if we focus on negativity, we're generating more negativity. You know what? To an extent, that's true. I agree. I don't want to sit there and harp on corruption. I don't want to harp on the Illuminati. Of course not, because it's going to make me feel like crap. But the reality of it is, we must be aware and be objective of the daily news that's going on. We must be aware and objective to the corruption that is happening with this new world order, with the Illuminati, with all of these things. They must be brought into our consciousness, and we must learn how to filter it in a positive way in order for us to create positive change. So, for those of you that are in that realm of, well, I I discovered The Secret, the movie, The Secret. Don't get me wrong, I love it. I love it. It worked great for me, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But we can't just be all one or the other. We can't just be all love and understanding. And I don't focus on negative issues. I'm just love. I focus on love. Meanwhile, your house is being, bulldozed by an Israeli settlement. These types of things are real, and we must be aware of reality. So, yes, by all means, it is great. It is fantastic to have a positive outlook. I have a very positive outlook. I consider myself, nonviolent. I consider myself a pacifist. I don't agree with violence, but I know it exists. I'm aware that it exists, and I'm aware that I need to do something to cultivate some type of humanity or consciousness where this is not conducive to the rest of the world. But I'm not going to sit there and say, there is no Palestinian apartheid. I'm not going to say that it's wrong, that it's not wrong for Obama to bomb Syria or any of these other things. Of course I am. Of course I'm going to speak up. What makes my body cringe? So again, common ways people react to their awakening are I call it the cover your ears and go la 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 la. I don't hear you, and that is not the way to do it. You have got to be open to constructive criticism. Now, granted, if it's a troll bugging you and annoying you, get rid of them. Block them from your website, block them from your Facebook page, whatever. They're just trying to get rides out of you. But if someone is genuinely asking you a question, if someone is genuinely saying something to you, and I will share a personal experience with you that I happen to agree with now, 7 years later. I was speaking with a woman when I first started doing this back in the early 2000s, and very intelligent, extremely connected, and I happened to help her awaken. Okay, I happened to help her awaken. She's like, I get it. My God, this is terrible. But she said something to me, and it resonates with me now. And I hope this will help you with this particular question. She said to me, Bernard, Alex Jones puts out the best information. He really does. But is the way that he does it, do we really want him to represent us? Do we really want someone like Alex Jones to represent us? And again, I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying something that she said. And she said, there's got to be someone else who can be a leader of this movement that is more diplomatic, that is more polite. What's that saying? You're going to get more flies with honey. And at first I resisted. I was like, oh no, but he's telling the truth. People need to wake up. These sheeple need to wake up. And if you go back on my blog, you go back on the website back in 2008, 2007, you'll see where I was doing the same thing. Oh, these damn people, they need to wake up. They need to wake up. Now I'm looking back and I'm like, you know what? This woman was absolutely correct. This woman was absolutely correct. We need someone who is going to stand up, but in a way that doesn't make us look embarrassing. Um, and again, I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. And actually, this takes me to my next question. What are some of the resources, authors, and radio shows that I used to listen to in my spiritual and political awakening? Well, I will say again, the famous names, of course, but to add to that, I am a huge fan of Joseph Campbell. I don't know if many of you know who he is. I find that Joseph Campbell happens to really help explain the fabric of humanity and our consciousness. He works a lot with mythology. He worked a lot with Bill Moyers, and I'm still a huge fan of Bill Moyers. If any of you listen to any of his shows or his or read any of his essays, he's got one that's going viral right now called The End Game of Democracy," which is absolutely fantastic. And yes, you have it at G.I.C.org. Bill Moyers, "The End Game of Democracy." But I was a big supporter of Naomi Wolf. Naomi Wolf wrote The End of America, and she put a movie out about it that talked about the steps to tyranny. Another wonderful book, fantastic DVD, excellent stuff. I was very, very much into Max Egan, still am. I think Max Egan from Australia, his movie, what is it, The Big Picture? Excellent, excellent. He's not biased. He's not saying, it's the end of the world. No, he basically tells you how it is and what we need to do. Problem, solution, but not in the sense of the Hegelian dialect, of course. But people like that are very, very helpful. Of course, I read a lot of spirituality. I and still am very much a fan of Esther Hicks. I know a lot of people probably scoff at her, but I find that the teachings of Abraham are very, very real. They're very, very clear, especially when it comes to what I talked about earlier, that illusion. It's if it is all an illusion, and let's say it's all an illusion, and just reacting to the illusion around us. What she teaches, and what I got from her, maybe I'm getting it wrong, but what I got from her is that there is only the 0 point, and you are the 0 point. It is before the illusion, it is before the reaction. It is that 0 point where you can choose to create. And it is at that choice, at that point of creation, that we make the choices of how our illusion is going to exist. And that's the reasons why I really like her style. I like her teachings and whatnot. Again, big fan of Project Camelot and Carrie Cassidy. A big fan of actually many of our co-hosts. Uh, uh, Fellow hosts is a better term. Fellow hosts here on Revolution Radio. I enjoy I enjoy listening to many of the shows here on Revolution Radio. I also enjoy watching. What is that? The Corbett Report. I don't know if any of you watch that on YouTube. I've been a fan of his for quite a while now. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. When it comes to spirituality, I enjoyed Humanity Healing. Humanity Healing is a great organization as well, and they're still around like G.I.C. I can't believe all these years later that we have a fellow organization that's still sticking around and doing this work. But I will say, I find that you're going to connect with different authors. You're going to connect with different radio shows. You're going to connect with different videos. I mean, we have, if I may toot our own horn, we have had over 24 million viewers on our YouTube channel. And I know a lot of people are very dedicated to the work that we put out, and I appreciate that. But I hope that the people who watch our stuff are also getting information and getting some type of influence from other authors and or videographers and video channels and whatnot. One of my favorite resources, I will say, is the Tao Te Ching. And I say that, if anything, because when I wrote my book, The Book of One, it kind of I wrote The Book of One before I read the Tao Te Ching, and they are nearly nearly identical, not necessarily, but 50% identical. And I still, to this day, use the Tao Te Ching as a resource. I kind of keep it around my night table whenever I need something that I need to kind of check where I'm at. I'll just open a page of the Tao Te Ching and kind of read it and contemplate it and think about, okay, how am I applying this to my life? I do the same thing with the book that uh, I may have written it, but I don't know it by heart. So I will open it and I'll read it, and I'll read a passage and something will come to mind. I do focus more on books at this point. I think it's very important, and I'll get more into that later. But it's better to read than it is to listen or watch. And if you are an avid reader, you will know what I mean. But I'll get more into that in just a few minutes. I have another question. Why are conspiracy sites helpful, and why? Okay. Conspiracy sites, yes, it is a part of the process. I think it's very important that we allow the conspiracy aspect to enter into this path. I believe it is a part of the awakening. Conspiracy is a word used by the elite to try to shame us, that those of us who are critical thinkers. So forgive me for using it. I don't call it conspiracy. I call it alternative research or alternative media. But to put it more into mainstream terminology for the good of this particular broadcast, I am going to call it conspiracy. But why is conspiracy helpful? Why do these sites help us, and how is it helpful? The most important thing that conspiracy sites do is they help you to think outside of your particular paradigm. I will say one of the most revealing, and who would have thought, three college kids. I mean, loose change literally changed my life. Watching loose change. Now, if you are young enough, or I'm sorry, if you are old enough to remember 9/11, I know that for me, I felt the fabric of humanity rip apart. I'm not a Christian, but I'll say it was as if the devil has put his feet on the earth that day. I felt it. I was very involved in spirituality at that point already. So here I was having all these candle vigils and meditations and all these group prayer things, trying to, calm the fabric down, trying to send positive energy out to everybody. But even that, I didn't feel was helping. I mean, there was just so much evil released on the world that day, and I knew something was up. I knew it. And when I saw Loose Change, it answered a lot of questions. I'm not saying that Loose Change was 100%, factual. Maybe there was a lot of speculation, but there was a lot of fact in it. So to go back, are conspiracy sites helpful? Conspiracy sites give us the ability to again explore things that are not being shared with us in mainstream media. And one of the things that are very important as we are moving on this path of awakening and activism is to explore alternative media and to get away from propaganda. Now, is there propaganda and conspiracy? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to get into that in just a minute, probably after the break. I hope we'll have enough time to cover all this today. But anyway, the sites are helpful. For me, it's a matter of being realistic as to what they're saying, learning how to cross reference the information, not taking things at face value. The conspiracy sites give us the ability to think out of the box, and that's what we're doing. As we are awakening to our own humanity politically and spiritually, these conspiracy stories, these conspiracy radio shows, radio stations, websites, magazines, books, and whatnot give us an alternative look at something that has, away from the propaganda that has been shoved down our throats for most of our lives. And when I say propaganda shoved down our throats for most of our lives, I mean what our families have believed, what our schools are indoctrinating us with, what the news is indoctrinating indoctrinating us with, what media is indoctrinating us with, what pop culture is indoctrinating us with. It gives us the ability to break that programming of indoctrination by the mainstream. So, absolutely, go to the conspiracy sites, laugh off the articles that you think are silly, but explore the subject matters that you find a connection with. One of the first conspiracies I was introduced to, what besides 9/11, was the chemtrail phenomenon. What is it? I still don't know what it is, but something is going on. Something is going on. What are the? I grew up in the 70s and 80s. We did not have those trails in the sky. And people can brush it off by saying, oh, they're just putting an additive into the fuel. Well, I've been in an airplane where I saw the chemtrails being sprayed out of the wingtip. So I got to see that with my own eyes. A good confirmation for something I feel is incorrect and what's being portrayed in the media. I saw it with my own eyes. By the way, that's a great movie. I know what I saw. What was his name? The UFO movie. I forgot his name. James something, perhaps. But anyway, going back to that, yes, go ahead, explore the conspiracy sites. There's nothing wrong with it, and there's nothing to be ashamed of by explaining that. I do believe Diana was murdered. I do believe that 9/11 was, it's not what it is. I do believe that there's something going on with chemtrails. I do believe that there is some kind of global new world order. I'm not quite sure what it is, but there is something going on where there is a financial tyranny taking over the planet. Absolutely. So find out, learn, get away from the television, get away from mainstream news, go to the alternative news sites, go to the conspiracy sites. However, there is a dark side to that, and we're going to talk about that when we return.
And now, back to your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Welcome back to the Just Bernard Show, everybody, and thank you for sticking around. We're doing a really interesting discussion today here on Revolution Radio. You are listening to the Just Bernard Show, and today we are exploring how shall we say, a beginner's guide to the awakening and activism. Before the break, I was discussing conspiracy media, which, yes, I am a part of. I agree. And I will say that while it is helpful, and there are very, very many positive and well defined and well documented and well intended conspiracy sites, there are also others that are there just to make money, just to get a rise out of you. And if anything, speaking from a conspiracy point of view, are intel to make you to lower your consciousness, to lock you into this fear-based reality. What are they? I call them fear porn. Fear porn, yes, like pornography. There are many sites out there that just like to rattle your nerves, put out the most horrific images, the most horrific stories that you really have no control over. What are you going to do when you hear about, I don't know, the latest false flag? Yes, of course we're going to talk about it. Of course we are. But even the latest false flag, these fear pornographers are coming up with these outrageous conspiracy theories. Now, a false flag is a false flag. I agree. I know they happen. They happen all the time. But I will say sites like this, you will notice that they are making a ton of money. A good example is these sites that say martial law will be implemented by the end of November. The U.S. economy will collapse. People will starve. People will die by the end of November. People like this are not helping. They're not helping. They're not helping the situation. They're making you react. And again, I am one who believes that if we are going to get anywhere, if we are going to actually change the world, if we are actually going to create this wonderful new paradigm where the global elite psychopaths are not running the show, we have got to learn not to react and to proact. And what I mean by that is that when these morons, for lack of a better term, boy, I'm getting a little bold here today, when these morons post these things that it's the end of the world, or it's the end of the U.S. economy, or here come the FEMA camps next week, they're coming to get you. You need to learn to ignore these people. You need to learn to ignore these people. That fear porn is a trap. It is a cycle, and you keep looking for more of it and more of it and more to be afraid. More to be afraid. Oh, look, something else for me to be afraid of. Oh, look, something else for me to be afraid of. Oh, well, this person says the tanks are rolling down my streets next week. Oh, look at that video of that train with 2 tanks on it. That must mean they're invading my city. We've got to be aware of what's going on. Look at the big picture here. Look at the big picture and remember what I said earlier in today's show. It is all an illusion. You're creating the illusion by what you are giving your attention to. Is there disharmony? Yes. Is there corruption? Yes. Is there a conspiracy? There are more than one conspiracies out there. So yes, of course there are conspiracies to control. Yes, there are conspiracies to lower your vibration. So you are stuck in this 3D paradigm of fear, and that you will respond negatively so that they have the right to come and arrest you or break into your house or whatever. Look at these people. We see it all the time that are publicly making threats to the government, getting arrested. I'm sorry. I may not agree with the government. I may not agree with the way things are going. But to literally ask for an invitation to be arrested is really, really ignorant. And it's a reaction to the fear porn. This fear porn is not good. I will, and I'm going to name one name, just one, that I am so overseeing over and over and over again. The EU Times. How many of you have been reading the EU Times and the Sorka file? This is disinfo at its best. And every article starts off with a report through the Kremlin states. A report from the Kremlin states. And everyone keeps posting this stuff over and over and over again. And none of the titles, none of the article shares anything toward truth. It has nothing to do with it. So I don't understand why people are continually sharing this particular disinformation and why people don't get it. And we're going to go into how to cross-reference articles, how to go down that rabbit hole of information, who's sharing it, where are they getting it from. We're going to get into that in just a few moments. But I will say the reality of it is we have got to be strong enough not to give in to fear porn. I remember a great example, and I probably shared this story in the past. I had a friend of mine who was very conspiracy oriented. And I think I was spending the weekend, and there was a big conspiracy going around the internet at that point, where the solar flares are coming, and if the solar flare somebody had posted an article about the solar flares are going to hit this weekend, and when it does, it's going to knock out the grid, and you better grab your gun and head for the hills because there's going to be anarchy, and people are going to start killing you for your food and whatnot. Mind you, this was 3 years ago. So I remember this particular evening, I was spending the weekend with them, and I was shaken out of my bed at 2:00 in the morning because this person had been on the internet following this fear porn about the solar flares, following the fear porn about, grabbing your gun and heading to the hills. I was shaken out of bed and told, let's go. We're leaving. We're going to the mountains. I'm like, what? The flares are here. The flares are here. What? Chicken Little? Chicken Little. And we are not, if we are going to this awakening path, if we are awakening to our spiritual self, if we are even awakening to the political self, we must be discerning. We cannot have that chicken little mentality. That chicken little mentality is what's keeping us enslaved, is what's keeping us reactive. It's not the global elite that are enslaving us. It is our reaction. It is our fear, our allowing ourselves to live in fear. We must step beyond that and start discerning, start using our critical thinking mind. When someone says the solar flares are coming, you know what? Yeah, there are solar flares all the time. I do believe that. I do believe that. I think that perhaps, yes, if the grid is going to go out, it'll probably be from solar flares. And we are looking at high solar activity. I agree. But to have the audacity to make that a headline article, putting so many people in fear, putting so many people at risk, you need to really think about that and not allow yourself to fall into that fear. Speaking of fear and panic, another situation that pops up when it comes to conspiracy and or awakening, political and spiritual, is this whole satanic panic. How many sites out there are always talking about Luciferian agendas? How many sites out there are constantly talking about occult, ritual and sacrifice and whatnot? Listen, the reality of it is that yes, there are dark occult forces out there. I agree. I'm not going to deny that there are dark occult forces out there. There are also positive occult forces out there. And it is, in my opinion, again, my humble opinion, these sites that keep feeding fear into everyone about anything dealing with metaphysics, the occult, paganism, magic, even the Freemasons, whatever, the Illuminati, all of these things that are constantly being one-sided is not doing us any favors. The idea that everything occult is evil is not true. The idea that all Masons are evil, not true. The idea that all pagans and witches are evil, not true. The idea that anyone who is not a good God-fearing Christian is evil, not true. And you know what that's doing? That's enslaving us even further. The idea that we cannot explore the same exact... Let me just share something about the occult. And, I've shared this in the past. I agree with Michael Tsarian. I agree with him wholeheartedly when it comes to the occult. Michael Tsarian says that the reason why people like this are creating the satanic panic is to make money. I agree. The more fear, the more you're going to pay to watch that documentary about, the horrible, satanic cult that did this and that. But they don't tell you the other side. The other side is that the occult, magic, paganism, all of these things, metaphysics, all of these have no side. It is just natural energy, chi. Are you going to tell me that Buddhists are evil? Are you going to tell me that the person who does healing through natural energy is evil because they're utilizing something that is not accepted by Western religious standards? These Western religions control you because they have put fear in you. And they control all of us because they keep us at a very low vibration. Now listen to me very clearly. This satanic panic is a farce. This satanic panic is a lie. And the satanic panic is going to keep humanity enslaved. We are much more than what we think we are. Our ability to raise our consciousness, our ability to heal ourselves, our ability to heal one another, and our ability to expand from our present state of consciousness is what is going to save humanity. And these sites that say that the occult is evil, they're a part of the enslavement program as far as I'm concerned. Either that or they're just ignorant. And if they're ignorant, that's fine. That's fine. We all have our path. Some people need to wake up to it. I remember when Alex Jones hated David Icke because David Icke was positive about certain occult practices and expanding your consciousness. Now they seem to be buddy-buddy. That's great. Alex has evolved into saying, you know what? Maybe consciousness has something to do with it. Maybe. And that's all I can ask you to do is to give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Is this satanic panic about saving humanity, or is it about selling more subscriptions, selling more DVDs, and getting more hits on their website so they get more advertising dollars? Is the Bible created? And yeah, I'm going to get religious here today. Is the Bible created to create fear so you do not explore that? Remember, I think there was a couple passages in Deuteronomy. Anyone who practices witchcraft, you must kill them. Oh, really? Why? Because they might teach you something, how to heal with an herb, or how to do meditation, or how to empower yourself. Personally, I feel that whole satanic panic is a part of the agenda to keep us at a very low vibration and to keep us in control for them to conquer us. If they're using it, we all talk about the Illuminati. We all talk about the elites being occult oriented, doing this, doing that. Remember, there's good magic, there's bad magic. If they're doing bad magic, wouldn't it behoove us to start using good magic to try to counteract the work that they've been doing? The universe is not evil. The stars are not evil. Planetary alignments are not evil. But these people are utilizing that to further control and further push their agenda. Why can't we use it to further pursue and further advance our agenda to humanity, a free humanity, an empowered humanity, a fearless humanity, and a love-oriented humanity? And I'm not going to say, I was going to reveal a couple names, which I would say do not go to, but let's just say if they're across the board saying that the occult is evil, run, because they're lying to you, and they're trying to keep you either in their own ignorant paradigm, or they're trying to keep you in control for the agenda of the global elite. And we need to be very, very aware of that. Now, on the flip side of that, do people need to worry about predatory New Age cults? Oh boy. Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah. Then we have the flip side of that. As we're awakening, as we're going to the politics, as we're going into spirituality, as we're getting involved in the law of attraction or paganism or metaphysics or New Age, we are going to find these predatory leaders out there. That's the sad reality of it. That's the sad reality of it out there. Yes, I believe a lot of New Age metaphysical practices are very helpful. However, there is the ability, again, that whole mentality of giving yourself over to one organization, one leader, not allowing other information to come through. Of course there is. Of course there is. Stay away from anyone who charges you way too much money. There are organizations out there that will literally charge you $1,000 or $2,000 for their information. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Listen, this is the flip side of that. The reality of it is we all need to make a living. We all need to pay our bills. We all need to pay the electric. And you know what? If I go out of my way and I'm doing a 90-hour class, let's say, series. Actually, I think the most I've done is an 8-hour series. I did an 8-hour series. I put it out for free. But you know what? If it was my decision to put that 8-hour series out for free, that or charge for that, let's say $100, I think that's very fair. We're working, but the reality of it is that there are people that are working half of that and charging you quadruple. The reality of it is that there are many people that are channeling and are not really channeling. They're just putting out an agenda. There are many people that are involved in channeling that are channeling evil entities. Whenever you hear a message from one of these sites or channelers or teachers that is about controlling you, a great example. And I know I've had guests on in the past. I know I even have friends that are involved with this whole what is it, the Galactic Federation of Light or whatever. I have a problem with the hierarchy. I do. I feel that anything that would evolve humanity will not have hierarchy? Will there be respected people that are leaders, respected leaders of their own accord? Absolutely. Absolutely. But these are people that rise up as leaders because they have done so much work for humanity. They have done so much work for that particular organization. They have done so much work to help and to heal and to further the involvement of humanity. But when you're talking in New Age terms, high galactic commander, anthropomorphinus, or whatever, that worries me. That worries me. So yes, you must be very careful of New Age cults out there if it is based on authority, if it is based on control, if it is based on it's our way or no way, run. Run the other way. As someone who's involved in pagan organizations, I used to tell that to all of my students. The moment that high priest or that high priestess tells you, you must do this, you must do that, you must pay this much, all of that, you got to run the other way. You've got to run the other way. Now, on the flip side, they're not all evil. They're not. They're not all evil. I believe that there are good people with good intentions out there that are literally making a difference. I believe I am one of those people. I believe Miriam Delicato is one of those people. I believe Collective Evolution is one of those organizations. I mean, there are many, many positive organizations that are being sincere. They're not ego driven and they're not trying to control. They're just trying to share information and they're just trying to make a living by sharing that information. So you must be very, very careful when you're getting involved in the metaphysical aspect of this particular awakening process. Don't give all your money to somebody uh, if I can, and actually I do have enough time, I'm going to share. It's a very sad story. I had a woman that came to me about 6 years ago, maybe longer, 7 years ago. Excuse me. And not many of you probably know this here on the radio station, but I do intuitive counseling, tarot readings, and whatnot. And she came to me for a reading, and within the reading, I saw that there was a woman trying to control her, and a woman trying to guilt her out of making money. And that's all I knew. That's all I knew. Well, the reality of it is that this woman finally expressed to me that she had gone to a gypsy or I guess they call them Romy, Roma. I forgot what the proper term is. But she had gone to this woman for a reading, and that this woman told her that these entities were after her, and that she had all these people after her, and that she needed to give her $600 to protect her from losing all her money. So this woman gave her the $600, and the gypsy put it in a jar and put it into a cabinet or whatnot. And the reality of it is this woman, the bottom line, is she ripped her off. She stole the money. The woman never felt any better. She never got any healing. And the reality of it is that she was misled. So yes, it happens. It does happen. Be aware. Be aware. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Don't do it. If someone is asking you for $2,000 to go to a sweat lodge, don't do it. If someone is asking you, $5,000 to join their online community, don't do it. If someone is asking you, I would say, you know what, as someone who does readings, anything over $200 is way too much. I personally only charge $50, but be careful. Be careful. A lot of this is ego driven, but it's not wrong. And again, that's why I'm bringing up this dark aspect of it. These people have made it bad, made everyone else look bad. Just like I said earlier about the truth movement, where we've got these people screaming and yelling the end of the world and military and martial law. We also have morons in the metaphysical aspect of it who are ripping people off and making everybody look bad. The bottom line is not everybody's bad. It doesn't matter whether you're a truther or a light worker or a spiritualist or an activist or on the awakening path, whatever it is, do stay in the center. Do not believe everything you hear. Again, not every truther is angry. Not every Mason is evil. Not every, every reader is a ripoff. All of these things, you have to learn by your own experience and learn to listen to your gut. Remember, today's show is called The Beginner's Guide, and I'm hoping by the end of this that I will help you to understand how to listen to your intuition, how to be an objective person on this particular path. It's a very complicated path. It's a very complicated path. There are constantly people asking for your attention, asking for your money to buy this DVD, buy this book, listen to this show, read my book, read my free ebook, join my free community, listen to my free radio show. That's fine. But we have to be discerning. We have to be discerning. What does it mean to be on this path, and should we continue? I happen to be in the chat room, and I'm going to answer a question. I did not say don't do a sweat lodge, Nick. I think it was the first time I actually caught a question saying don't be overcharged. It doesn't cost that much to create a sweat lodge. I've been a part of a sweat lodge where I paid a merely $50. They do work. They're wonderful experiences. However, be careful. Make sure it's somebody who knows what they're doing, and don't get overcharged. Everything does have a price. I hate to say it. Life isn't free. Building a sweat lodge isn't free. Running this radio station isn't free. Me producing this radio show isn't free. Am I going to ask for money? Yes. Is Revolution going to ask for money? Yes. Is the sweat lodge person going to ask for money? Yes. However, if they're charging you $2,000 or $3,000 to sit in a sweaty tent for 6 hours, you need to question that. And that's all I'm saying. It does work. But question the integrity of the person leading it by all means. It's a wonderful experience, and I would recommend anyone to go through that particular experience. Just don't get ripped off in the process. And don't fall for charismatic leaders that will steal your thoughts and screw up your belief system. I think that's the bottom line of today's particular talk. We don't want people to screw up your belief system when you're this vulnerable at the beginning stage. Like I said, it's the beginners show today, and I love this little story. And it was geez, what is the gentleman's Ram Dass? By the way, another wonderful teacher. Ram Dass is a contemporary of Timothy Leary and Terence McKenna. Check out Ram Dass. He's got some great stuff. But he told this wonderful story once, and he said about the beginning of the process. When the sapling, the tree sapling, is small, when it's just breaking out of the earth, you have to put a fence around it so the sheep don't trample it. But when the sapling grows and blossoms into this huge tree, it's going to provide shade for many. So be a little guarded, be a little vigilant. I'm not saying be paranoid. I'm not saying be distrustful. Be vigilant. Check your sources. Recheck your sources. Follow the money. Follow the background. Is it ego-oriented? Are you learning anything from it? And it's going to benefit you. You know what? If you go to a fake shaman lady workshop and she charges you $2,000 for the weekend and you learn something from it, more power to you. If you can afford $2,000 to go sit at a fake shaman lady's workshop and you get something from it, that's great. My concern is for the people that can't afford it and go out of their way to raise the money for something like that, and then they don't have rent the next month, or they can't buy food the next month. We need to be very aware of this. And you know what? It's not just spiritual. It's the same thing with the truth movement. There are liars. There are people that want you to join their internet TV or buy their DVDs and charge you an arm and a leg. And it's not good for you. It's not good for you, and it's not good for humanity. So when we return from this particular break, we're going to start wrapping it up. But guess what? We're going to get very interesting here. We're going to open up the next half hour with how deep does the rabbit hole go? We all love to talk about the rabbit hole. So now that hopefully we've given you some tools to be aware of what to expect, what it might feel like, but what concerns you need to have, what not to fall into, what to watch out for. Let's take you down that hole. Let's take you down the rabbit hole. Where does it go? What are you looking at? How far does this all go?
And now, back to your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Welcome back to this Bernard Show. Today we are doing the Beginner's Guide, Awakening and Activism, and we've covered a lot of topics. Now, this last 25 minutes or so of today's broadcast, I'm going to try to cover a lot of material, so forgive me if I speak fast. Before we do that, let me just let you know that if you would like to find more information about myself, you can find it at the G.I.C.org. A lot of the topics that we've covered today are available for research there, as well as many documentaries that I'm going to be speaking of today, and articles and reference. So the GIC.org is where you can find me, and of course here every Tuesday on freedomslips.com. Let's start off with how far does the rabbit hole go? Well, as we are awakening, as we begin to see the corruption of the leaders of the planet, and as we begin to see infinite possibilities, and I am one of those people that promote the idea that humanity does have infinite possibilities. I am one of those people that say it doesn't have to be this way. It does not have to be this way. And this particular rabbit hole, as we will call it, for lack of a better term here, it depends how far you want to go at any given moment. Now, what do I mean by that? First, we have the process of understanding that humanity and you as an individual have a lot more to offer energetically and creatively for your particular life. Yes, you have the ability to create your own world. You have the ability to create a better life just through your thoughts, just through your intentions. I'm a big proponent of that. The world is corrupt. The leaders are corrupt, and they are doing everything they can to stifle your growth. So, why? Why is this happening? How far does this rabbit hole go? You are going to find positive and negative news throughout this journey of this path that you're on. You're going to find scarier and scarier stories of the corruption. You're going to find more empowering stories about what you can do. But I will say that it is not just this world. We have to get real here. We have to be very um, how should we say, objective. The reality of it is that we are not the only planet in the entire, uh, for lack of a ginormous, I like that word for some reason, the ginormous universe that has life on it. The reality is that there are extraterrestrial beings. There are trans-dimensional beings. There is life in other dimensions. There is life throughout the universe, and who is running what? I personally don't know. But the reality of it is that everyone has an agenda, whether it be to empower each other, empower those around them, empower humanity, or they're going to have the agenda to suppress and oppress those around them. So when you're hearing stories, let's say like David Icke talks about the reptilian agenda, that might be one story. When we hear about the Pleiadians or the Arcturians shooting down missiles from the military, that might be another story. The rabbit hole just continues to grow the deeper you go in. And depending on what you're focusing on is how much information you're going to get out of that particular role or road, for lack of a better term. It goes very deep. I will say the reality of it is life is an illusion, and your perception is what creates your reality. And if your perception is that you are oppressed, you're going to be oppressed. If your perception is that you're empowered, and that this will end, then that's what's going to happen. So that is the reality of the rabbit hole. The rabbit hole will go wherever you want it to lead you. Now that's the trick. That's the trick of illusion. That's the trick of life. If you are looking for corruption, you're going to find corruption. If you are looking for martial law, you're going to find martial law. If you are looking for an empowered, free, voluntary living situation, you're going to find that. So, how far does the rabbit hole go? It will go wherever you want it to. You will always find something to support your direction. And that's a good thing. And I feel that is a very good thing. We want to support what we're believing. However, where does the whole end? Where do you want it to end? That's the problem we need to concern ourselves with. If you want it to end in martial law, keep looking for martial law, and you're gonna eventually create it. If you are looking for a free humanity, that has shaken off the chains of oppression, that has moved into a new paradigm, that has made this particular paradigm obsolete, and that we've moved beyond it to the point where we no longer need or wish to have this type of oppression on our planet so that all those criminals can be arrested and brought to justice, and that's what we're going to have. I prefer to create a new paradigm. I prefer to make this present paradigm obsolete. I prefer to bring the psychopaths to justice. I prefer to see a new paradigm, a loving, kind, gentle, compassionate, cooperative planet. That's where my rabbit hole goes. You have to decide where your rabbit hole is going. Now, one of the things that many people ask me is how can they tell? This is a really funny question, actually. How can they tell they're not going crazy or becoming paranoid? That's a very common concern on this particular path. People that I know that are leaders in this particular movement, whether it be consciousness, truth, activism, awakening, people I know that are leaders have come to me concerned that they're becoming paranoid or that they're going crazy. The reality of it is that if you think you're going crazy, you're probably not. It's the sign. If you don't think you're going crazy, that's when you should become paranoid. The reality of it is that we do have built in within our consciousness, within our psyche, we have things built in to make us concerned of our actions. If you are not concerned that you're going too far, if you are not concerned that you're stepping off the cliff, then I would be concerned. Then I would be concerned because that is the act of a sociopath or a psychopath. We all keep ourselves in check. It's a very natural thing for us to check where we are. Like I said, it's ingrained in us. Oh, I went too far. Look at me. I've been doing this for radio now for 6 years, 7 years, whatever. And it takes me quite a bit to come to the point where I say some things that I say, and I got to keep myself in check. And it's not for fear of people's reaction. It's for fear of, okay, am I just going overboard now? I don't want to go overboard because then I'm just putting myself in a predicament where it's going to lead me, to a negative reaction or a negative outcome. So for those of you that are worried that you're going crazy or becoming paranoid, good. Keep worrying, and but continue doing what you're doing. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Continue to post what you post on the internet. Continue to make the comments you make. Continue to do these great Facebook pages that are based on activism and spirituality and all these things. Be comfortable in what you share, and if you're not comfortable in what you share, uh, I would say answer only to yourself. Give yourself counsel. Am I going too far? Am I going to hurt people? And I think that's the bottom line. Is it going to hurt people? Is it going to create a panic? Is it going to be disrespectful and or something that is not going to benefit the rest of humanity? Am I distracting humanity? Is a great way to look at it. Am I a part of the distraction or am I a part of the empowerment? So if you think you're going crazy, good for you. If you don't think you're going crazy, might want to go see a psychologist, and I mean that quite honestly. There is I used to be a part of an organization. I ran this organization that when they got involved in the work that we were doing, I did ask them to go to counseling the first at least 3 or 4 times to make sure that they were psychologically stable enough to do the work that we were doing because we are pushing envelopes. We're pushing psyche. We're breaking paradigms. We're removing self identities and creating new ones. And as we create these new identities, we want to have a secure, as an individual, it doesn't matter who you are, you want to have a secure psychological understanding of yourself that you're not going to go over the edge and you're not going to hurt anybody. You're not MK Ultra, that kind of thing. I joke, but it's the reality of it. It's the reality of it. Have you been programmed? You don't know. So I need to move along. I suggest reading over watching movies and videos in the beginning. Why do I suggest reading? The most important thing about reading is that it is your own definition. When you're watching a movie or you're watching a documentary or you're watching videos or you're listening to me on the radio or listening to Alex Jones or listening to Esther Hicks or whoever, you're hearing what they're saying and you're kind of taking it at face value. The reason why I suggest reading is that there is no external influence. There is no filter there. It's you perceiving it how you would perceive it. So read The End of America by Naomi Wolf, but read it before you watch the movie. Read one of David Icke's books, but read it before you see him live for that 5 hour, marathon video that he puts out. Same thing with the Alex Jones movies. I don't know if he even has any books out. I'm sure he does, but I would prefer reading. And I say that again. I reiterate that you are more discerning when you're reading than you are when you're watching something or being swept up into a moment of emotion and whatnot. Read before you watch movies, and by all means, the movies are very helpful, very, very helpful. Um, some I'm going to share with you some amazing documentaries, and especially if you're just starting out. We've tried to set up the G.I.C.org for those who are just awakening in the sense that, here are a bunch of movies we think you should watch. And I'm going to share some of them with you. And I'm sure many of our listeners have watched many of these. Just going to read a list. You guys can go ahead and discuss it in the chat room or in the comments below on the YouTube channel. But Outboxed. First one, Outfox. It shows you the idea of how Rupert Murdoch is in control of journalism. People need to be aware of this. The next one would be the esoteric agenda. All of them. Kymatica. I don't know if he put out a part 3 yet, but the films esoteric agenda and Kymatica are extremely important to get some clarity of what's happening on the planet. I would say the Money Masters, but I did interview Bill Still about a year ago, and he said to ignore the Money Masters and watch The Secret of Oz. That's his recent movie. He said there were some discrepancies in the Money Masters, even though that's one everyone seems to promote. Don't promote the Money Masters. He wants you to promote The Secrets of Oz. That's his latest one, with the discrepancies that have been corrected. Ring of Power is very interesting. I don't know how well documented the information is. It? It's very conspiracy oriented, but it will at least open possibilities for you. So maybe it will give you an idea to go down a rabbit hole. So Ring of Power is a pretty good one. Of course, the 9/11 Chronicles, Truth Rising, Endgame by Alex Jones, Beyond Treason by Jason Burmis. Is it Jason Burmis? I'm not sure. Dark Secrets Inside the Bohemian Grove. It's an eye opener, but it's very it's just so sensationalized. It's very interesting. It is. It is. The Bohemian Grove is something that I'm interested. Why are these people doing what they're doing? I'd like to know the history, but unfortunately, that was one of Alex's early movies and was very sensationalized. I know the next one is very controversial, the G.I.C movement. Everyone's like, oh, he just wants to, create a new world order. I don't know. I would not want to live in a G.I. city, but he does have great ideas for those that want to live in a city. I prefer to live in the mountains. I would prefer to live in a farm. But if you want to live in a city, I think Peter Joseph might have some great ideas for those that like that type of lifestyle. That is fairly, it sounds very anarchist as far as I'm concerned. The World According to Monsanto, you've got to see that. If you want to understand what's going on with your food, check out The World According to Monsanto. The next one, America, Freedom to Fascism, was one of the first films I ever watched. It really helped me with the awakening process politically. Riddles in Stone, very, very interesting. The Secret Architecture of Washington, D.C. Talks about the occult influences and design of our nation's capital if you're American. Busted, The Citizen's Guide to Surviving Police Encounters. Every libertarian needs to watch this. You got to know your rights. You have to know your rights. Fabled Enemies. Sorry, that was Jason Burmis's movie. Excellent film. John Pilger, The New Rulers of the World. Alex Jones, The Obama Deception. Alex Jones, The Fall of the Republic. There's another film called Psychiatry, An Industry of Death. This is a very, very eye-opening film on how psychiatry has really become a form of torture and indoctrination into the nation's social norms. Um, the Fluoride Deception, of course, very, very powerful film. The Invisible Empire. I'm just going to read them off because I'm running out of time. The Invisible Empire, The Corporation, David Icke, The Secrets of the Matrix, Flow, How Did a Handful of Corporations Steal Our Water? Police State 4, The Rise of FEMA, very eye-opening, something to think about. Worse Than War, The End of Liberty, Animal Farm, by all means, Into the Fire. All of these films can be found, by the way, at the G.I.C.org Red Pill Movies section. They're very inflammatory, but they're very, very helpful. On the flip side of that, let's talk about some empowering movies. What the Bleep Do We Know? I don't know if you guys have seen that. I'm sure everyone probably has. Who Wrote the Bible? Excellent film. The Flowering of Human Consciousness by Eckhart Tolle. Excellent film. Bringers of the Dawn, Teachings from the Pleiadians. The Secret Behind the Secret, Introducing Abraham. The Celestine Prophecy. The 11th Hour. The Legends of Atlantis. That's a really far out, long series, but it's excellent. And Entheogen, Awakening the Divine Within, talks about psychonauts and moving into consciousness using psychedelics. Cosmic Voyage, The Illuminated Chakras by Anodea Judith, which we've had on the show. Zachariah Sitchin's Genesis Revisited. Living Luminaries, Shaman Voyage, The Secret, of course, Religulous, The Awakening, which I believe is Max Egan, Manufacturing Consent by Noam Chomsky, The Secrets of the Occult by Dan Burstein, Krishnamurti, The Nature of Mind, of course, from Project Camelot, Ashayana Dean's Ascension Mechanics, The Ascension Experience, The Five Gateways or Journey of Ascension, an excellent, excellent film. Life Inc., The Ethos Coalition, Buddha, Food Matters, Beautiful Truth, Max Egan's The Awakening, there it is again, and Armocratic Inquisition. Again, these can be found on Consciousness Cinema on the GIC.org. But these films, the reason why I say it is because they give you the foundation and give you the information so you can discern where you're going with all of this. Where are you going with all of this? Are you on the path of awakening, or are you just on the path of reaction? And I think that really does help to watch these particular documentaries. I hope I have enough time. Actually, I've only got about 3 more minutes, so I'm going to kind of rush through this. The best way to reference your sources, please, when you're reading an article and you're going like, "Oh my God, look what they're doing," hit Google search and search the title of that article. Just because 8 conspiracy websites are posting the same exact article word for word does not mean you have a cross-reference. You want to go to the source. Where did the original person who posted that article get their reference from? One of the things I love about Anonymous is Anonymous posts, on Pastebin, you get all the documents. You can see where the information comes from. A lot of these conspiracy sites, they'll post something, and then next thing you know, all the top 10 conspiracy sites will post the same exact article. You need someone who's going to post a different article, has a different source. You need to cross-reference. Where is this coming from? Is it real, or is it fear porn to get everybody in an uproar? How can we help others to awaken? The way I say to help others to awaken is be the example. Don't make fun of people who are not awakened. Stop using the word sheeple. Stop supporting sites that use the word sheeple. Stop making people feel stupid for not being awake. They'll get there. They'll get there. And if you love them, you should love them whether they're awakened or not. Stop treating others like you're better than them just because you've awakened. It doesn't make you better. If anything, treating people like that, you're perpetuating the paradigm created by the elite in the first place. Stop calling other people sheeple. By calling other people sheeple, I think you're a sheeple. I think you're following truth or dogma and are being an arrogant SOB and making fun of people who don't think like you. That's what Washington, D.C. does. Don't be like them. We're creating a new paradigm. It's time to stop that nonsense. And last but not least, we've got to go. I want to let you know that we do have a community called the G.I.C, the Global Illumination Council. It is a community. If you would like to meet people of like mind that are going through this process and that are interacting with each other, supporting each other, and helping each other, you are more than welcome.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.